Welcome back to episode 30.
It's game time. We diving deep. From the stairs to the play. No time for sleep. Below the surface, we're working, we set the scene. Who's your host? Skatt-Trick. Below the surface.
Game, and this is an exciting slate that we have this week. But first, let's do a quick little recap of my New York Giants. Gotta start out, shout out Jackson Dart coming through. Best game I've seen him play all season long. That was a gritty performance by him. His pocket manipulation, his ability to stand in under pressure. He delivered some big time throws on clutch third down situations. He also made a nice scramble for a touchdown. That throw to Theo Johnson, that throw to Wandale working back to the other side of the field with pressure. He had pressure in his face on a lot of pass reps, and he handled it very well. The Eagles showed him a lot of things that he'd never seen before, most likely in his short NFL debut, and he came through big time for us. Got to shout out Brian Burns on the defensive side of the ball. He got 2 sacks in this game, and Cordell Flott pick on one of the biggest plays of the game. Jalen Hurts not reading the field well, and what a break, sealing the victory for the Giants. And then we haven't even gotten to the superstar, man of the night, guy who brings the energy every single game. CTE fears this man, and that's Cam Skattebo. Hat trick for the kid, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Never done before by Saquon Barkley, that bum. After that first 2 carries, he looked like nothing good happened. Shout out to the Giants O-line, stepping up big time, no sacks allowed. Obviously, there was some pressure, like I said, in Dart's face, and he handled it with ease, honestly. We'll have to see if we can keep this momentum going forward. We had no Malik Neighbors, no Darius Slayton last night. Just unbelievable, gritty win by the Giants. Quick shout out also, Lil Jordan Humphrey, activated from the practice squad, making his name heard. And also we got Jalen Hyatt as well. He did a nice job getting open on some routes. And he had his best game of the season, actually making catches, drawing that pass interference in the end zone. So shout out my New York Giants, shutting down the Eagles. Prime time, first time in 10 years that we got a Thursday night football win, if you can believe that. And it's just so good to see my Giants back with some energy and momentum. Just keep it going, guys. Take out and Bo Nix next. Yeah, that leads us right into my next game. Another international game, and we know with the NFL trying to push this global agenda, got a lot of international games now, and we also got, obviously, Bad Bunny doing the Super Bowl that he ties in right with their global scene. #1 on YouTube, which is their platform now as well. So NFL is heading in an international direction for sure. We got another London game, and last time the Jets went to London, they fired their head coach. And we got the Jets versus the Broncos in this matchup. The Jets are currently 0-5 under Aaron Glenn. And the matchup I'll be most intrigued by is the cornerback 1 versus wide receiver 1 matchup for both sides of the ball. We got a very man-heavy scheme for both teams. The Broncos actually have the highest man rate in the league, I believe, at this current moment. Pat Surtain, he'll be matched up mainly with Garrett Wilson. And Sauce Gardner opposite Cortland Sutton on the other side. Those will be the 2 matchups. I'm very intrigued. Both those top cornerbacks actually have been the ones underwhelming. Garrett Wilson's been tremendous. Cortland Sutton's been phenomenal this year. Both have made huge impacts for their squads early on in the season in their respective roles. Let's move into Justin Fields real quick, because this Denver defense is a stout unit, and Justin Fields has got to take advantage of this man coverage. Usually you're going to have cornerbacks turning their backs, and he's best with his legs. So get him out on the move. See if Justin Fields can get a rushing touchdown, get out on the edge, and utilize his legs in this game to help out against this man coverage if guys are tightly guarded. But we do have to bring up this stout Denver pass rush. Nick Bonito, he's been a defensive player of the year candidate this year, and he's really been very productive early on, getting a ton of pressures, getting a lot of sacks. I was looking at Nick Bonito's pass rush snaps, and his is pretty low compared to where the top guys are, and for his production, based on his snap amount, is very impressive, to say the least. Benito and Cooper have been very successful throughout this early part of the season. We'll see how they can do against this Jets offensive line and getting pressure on Justin Fields. Justin Fields has done well when kept clean, but not as much when there is pressure. He is best at using his legs when pressure comes. So we'll see if Nick Benito or Jonathan Cooper can get past those tackle play. On the other side of the ball, the Broncos are actually coming off their biggest win of the season, overcoming a 17-3 deficit and making a huge comeback all in the fourth quarter. And they really looked good in that fourth quarter. Bo Nix was really clicking. Cortland Sutton, he was going up against Quinion Mitchell, who had been a real good shutdown cornerback this year, but this game, he really struggled against Cortland Sutton, and Cortland Sutton's just been a key contributor for Knicks since his rookie season. Also, with the Broncos rushing attack, they really have been relying on J.K. Dobbins against tougher matchups. So we'll see if they get out to a big lead early, that they utilize RJ Harvey more in a game they feel more confident in. The Eagles were a tougher matchup. They're on the road. They were the underdogs in that matchup. In this game, they're 7.5-point favorites. We'll see if RJ Harvey can get more in the mix this game. But J.K. Dobbins looked like the clear alpha. And then speaking of the running game, for the Jets, with the loss of Braylon Allen, Hall's emergence was really noticeable. He was running really strong against that Dallas defense last week, and maybe he'll be able to get in the end zone eventually. Another prop I like to throw out there, just because this is a unique game, and the Jets are 0-5, and they're playing with their dignities on the line. They want to get a win for their coach. So they haven't got a turnover yet on defense. So I do think that Bo Nix interception is a potential sneaky bet as well. I like the Jets with the points or as a teaser leg, but I'm not really too confident. The Broncos is my lean on the money line, just because Sean Payton should be the better coach, and better coach teams should be better on the road, and especially in unique environments like an international game. And this would really help the Broncos make a stand for the division title with the Chargers banged up and the Chiefs underperforming so far this season. All right, that'll move us into our 1 o'clock slate. Maybe remember to set your lineups for that 9:30 slate. We're going to start with the Cardinals versus Colts, and what a horrible loss for the Arizona Cardinals on the doorstep of 28-6 in the fourth quarter as Ari DiMarcado fumbles the ball across the line, and then everything just unraveled right there. From that moment, crazy things went against them, and they just couldn't do anything the rest of the game, and they end up losing to the hapless Titans, and that really puts a damper on this season. The Jonathan Gannon regime could realistically be a game that cost him his job going forward. They've lost a lot of close games this year. We also want to keep an eye on Kyler Murray. He's been banged up just on the injury report. He's expected to play. The Colts have been running man at an above average rate, and Marvin Harrison Jr. has been struggling against man coverage, so we'll have to see how he performs in this matchup. But regardless, Trey McBride, he's been their best guy in man coverage and in zone coverage, most receptions and tied for most in man. So I like Trey McBride in this game over receiving yards, 59.5. I think he'll be utilized heavily in this game. But on the other side of the ball for the Colts, they just had a dominating victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. They are really emerging as a nice team in this league, putting on blowout performance wins in there, nice wins, and had a good win over the Broncos in a close one as well. Daniel Jones, or now called Indiana Jones for the Colts, he's really had a good year for the Colts. They also have Jonathan Taylor putting on an incredible season, vying for that Offensive Player of the Year. He's leading the league in yards. He's top in yards after contact and yards of 10 plus. He's really been this focal point of this offensive engine. 3 touchdowns last week in a dominant effort. Could have had 4 if not for the handoff to Amir Abdullah on the goal line. And the receivers have also been getting it done as well. Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren have been the most targeted in this offense, but it's actually Josh Downs who's been the highest graded wide receiver on this team, and his wide receiver line continues to be pretty low. I like his wide receiver line again as a prop in this game. And then, like I said, Trey McBride over receiving yards. And also, for the Cardinals, I expect Michael Carter to be more heavily involved after last week, but we'll see if that heated exchange with Jonathan Gannon and Imari DiMarcado leads to him still getting a role in this game. We'll see if he gives him a second chance at redemption. But yeah, the Colts should win this game easily. I have the Colts money line, and I think the Cardinals are headed in a really downward spiral. They lost both running backs. Not been a good season for them. All right. The next game I'll get into is the Chargers versus the Dolphins, and both teams are not headed in the right direction currently. The Chargers are falling apart right now after what seemed to be a very hot start to the season. Their O-line is extremely banged up, losing Slater before the year, and then now Joe Alt's missing another game this week. Trey Pipkins, their right tackle, he's going to miss game. He was their backup heading into the year. Becton might return in the positive light, but Amarion Hampton, he's going to be missing 4 weeks now heading forward, and that's just a really tough loss. He was getting into a rhythm and playing his best football lately. So they're going to have to rely on Kamani Vidal, running back out of Troy, second year back, and Hassan Haskins, Michigan running back, connected to Jim Harbaugh. And we'll see who gets the majority of touches. Hassan Haskins got the majority of touches when the game was in the balance as soon as Amarion went down. And Vidal got mainly touches with Trey Lance. So we'll see how that works. The lack of offensive line talent really seems to be affecting QJ the most. He saw a major dip in targets, and Keenan and Ladd McConkey both saw an increase in their target share, and Ladd got his first touchdown, and his best play of the game actually got called back on a touchdown. It was a punt return, and it was a really impressive return, but it got called back to a penalty. The Dolphins have also been really bad against the tight end, so a sneaky play of Rondé Gadsden, or just tease it down as like a tiny leg, 15 yards. I like that, or maybe even his touchdown as a long shot throw in. For the Dolphins, the offense actually looked fine without Tyreek Hill. Darren Waller really stepped up in his absence, and Jalen Waddle, he's been the focal point. He should be a top 15 wide receiver for fantasy going forward. This Miami Dolphins defense is really the big problem. They're a Swiss cheese unit. They just cannot stop anyone. Bottom 5 against the pass and the run, top 5 in most passing yards and rushing yards allowed. They're just giving up a lot of yards on defense. Also, just real quick, Achane, he's just been really productive for this offense. It's really Waddle, Waller, and Achane that I like in this game. So his touchdown's not a bad sprinkle. Also, for a prop bet, Justin Herbert, 21.5 rushing yards is interesting to me, as the Dolphins have been a great matchup for quarterbacks against the run. And for a long shot, Herbert might take off and get a touchdown at plus 400. It's not a bad value. I also do Ladd 4.5 receptions, and while receiving yards, he'll be playing closer to 90% of the snaps, and he's used as a wide receiver in this offense often. And that wraps up that game. That'll lead us right into the Patriots versus the Saints. Patriots just got a huge upset win over the Buffalo Bills on the road going into Highmark. And I actually made that upset call on the channel. Shout out me for the call. I got to give myself props for that one. That was a nice call I had. But this does seem like it could be a letdown spot after the big win against a divisional rival. Drake May, though, he's looking great. He had a phenomenal second half. 13 for 14 in that second half against the Bills defense, who don't have the best secondary, I will be honest. He just looked calm and composed. He got out on the run. Him rolling out to his right, he looks great when he does that. He can keep that going. This coaching staff really seems to trust Ramondre Stevenson a lot, despite the fumbles. They rely on him heavy, but they did suffer a tough injury to Antonio Gibson, which might finally lead to Travion Henderson getting a bigger role in this offense. I do like Travion Henderson getting involved in this receiving game this week. The Saints have been susceptible to the passing game, to running backs. They've allowed 3 catches for 18 for James Cook when they played the Bills, 6 catches for 45 yards for Cam Skattebo, and CMC, obviously an elite pass catcher, but 6 for 52. His line is just 15.5 in the receiving game, so I do like his over. And I do lean Patriots money line, but I have them on upset alert. The Saints have been playing good football. For the Saints specifically, Alvin Kamara has been falling off, and I do think Kendre Miller, with his increase in snaps over the last few weeks, he will continue to get more involved in the Saints offense. Also, keep an eye on if Christian Gonzalez plays. If he doesn't, I think that's a huge boost for Chris Olave. I like Chris Olave in this game regardless. He's been really solid at home with Spencer Rattler. They have a good connection this year, and his receiving line is another solid bet if you'd like it. Congrats to Spencer Rattler on his first ever career win against my New York Giants. I'll give him credit. He played a really good game. Nice touchdown he threw to Rashid Shaheed, so good for him, man. We'll see if this Patriots team is really legit, if they can rip off a nice string of wins over this next few weeks because they have an easier schedule coming up. Now, let's move into the Browns versus Steelers. This is a very nice divisional rivalry, and Dillon Gabriel got his first ever start overseas in London. He looked fine. He looked good. Quinshon Judkins, he's the real story of this offense, and he looks phenomenal and gets a juicy matchup. He's the player I'm interested in most in this game and going forward for the rest of the season, but Isaiah Bond, he's looking more and more like the team's wide receiver one. He's seen an increase in targets every week this year, and he's only one fewer target than Jerry Jeudy over the last 2 weeks, 12 to 11. This hasn't yet translated into fantasy points for Bond, but I do like his receiving yards line, 30.5 in this game. Dillon Gabriel might be able to establish a connection with the rookie. And also David Njoku, he was their leading target earner and had 6 catches for 67 yards last week. I do not hate his touchdown value at plus 425. Maybe sprinkle that in his receiving yards. So those are the best. Harold Fannin was more a blocker, so I do Njoku more in this game because he was Gabriel's favorite target. Also, the Browns defense, it's been incredible against the run. They've been giving up the fewest yards, 62, and the fewest fantasy points to running backs, 15. So Jaylen Warren in this game likely to go under his rushing yards line. It's not a strong bet for me. First game back, Kenny Gainwell has looked good in his absence, and they might want to get him more involved in this offense as well. And he's also decent in the passing game, could keep Warren off the field a little bit more in his first game back. Steelers are currently sitting pretty atop the division 3-1, so this is a really big game for them if they can keep it going against the Browns. The Browns have also been good and gotten some big wins. We'll see if Dillon Gabriel can lead them to his first NFL career win. Next game I want to move into is the Cowboys versus the Panthers. This game really could be an exciting game. For the Cowboys right now, Dak Prescott, no CD, no problem. He's looking like an MVP candidate right now. And Javonte, he's looking completely rejuvenated in Dallas, 2 years removed from his major injury, and he's looking like a bell cow back for this team. Jaden Blue, with Miles Sanders being shut down, he might be a guy to keep your eye on, though. He just did all the little things right in his first game. He blocked well, and I know he didn't get it going on the ground, but he's very good in the receiving game, so he can become maybe a weapon out of the backfield for them there going forward. Jake Ferguson, he's currently the fantasy tight end 1, and he's there by a large margin right now. He's a complete volume monster this year, 48 targets through the 3 games CD has missed, and he went out in the first quarter of that game, and then the 2 games he was out already, and now he'll miss a 3rd straight game. George Pickens is also going to have such a high touchdown ceiling in this offense. He's been a touchdown machine for them, and with Dak playing the football he has, he's just going to benefit greatly from Dak. On the flip side of the ball, Bryce Young, he's looked very shaky this season. He did have a nice little rally in the second half against the Miami Dolphins and they pulled out a great win. Rico Dowdle, unbelievable game in a revenge spot against his former team, the Dallas Cowboys, just putting up 200 rushing yards. Absolute unbelievable performance. And with Chuba dealing with this calf, we'll see if even when he comes back, they might want to rely heavily on Rico going forward. Chuba's underlying metrics haven't been great, especially in the receiving game, so he might eat into it. And I think if anybody's willing to give up Rico Dowdle right now, thinks that this might be a fluke or they just want to sell him high after a big game, I think he's worth paying up for. I think he can be a really good player going forward. Bryce likes to use the running backs in the receiving game, and they just rely on the running game heavily in this Panthers offense. And I know the O-line is a little banged up right now, but at full strength, they're a really solid unit. Also, Jalen Coker, he returns potentially this game. It looks like I've been seeing positive reports to him playing. And Xavier Legette last week, he had his best game. Shout out my Gamecocks. Xavier Legette putting on a show last week. He had his best game, and he really showed up in the blocking game. Really impressive stuff. So if he can just get his receiving game going a little bit, which he started to, it looked like, he had his best game. And so I expect points to potentially be flowing in this game. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And I haven't mentioned him, but Ted McMillan, he hasn't yet to get a touchdown yet. And I think that they need to scheme him some looks in the end zone or just get him some deep shot look so he can make a play down the field. I'd like to sprinkle his touchdown. I think he's going to score eventually. And Dallas has been really poor against the quarterbacks in the rushing, and Bryce has shown some rushing upside. So 10.5 rushing yards, I think he can clear that mark. But I will lean Dallas in this one. But Dallas struggles sometimes on the roads and typically plays down to their competition. And that was a really nice win for the Panthers to eke out last week. So maybe they're going to ride that momentum. And we'll see if Dallas, with pressure on, can keep their momentum going. They look like they're a good team right now and might be playoff eligible. Now, this next game that I'll get into, we got the Seattle Seahawks heading to Jacksonville, and we'll start with the Jacksonville Jaguars pulling out a really nice win over last year's 1 seed, the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs have been struggling, clearly, 2-3 now, and Jacksonville making plays. This defense is just an unbelievable takeaway unit. We saw that pick 6 by Devin Lloyd. That was just an incredible play by him, 99 yards to the house, really making a nice read on Mahomes. But getting to the offensive side of the ball, I was talking about last week how the wide receivers were really struggling. And in this game, both Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. made big plays for this offense. Brian Thomas Jr. with that huge catch late down the sideline, and Travis Hunter working back to the ball on that deep shot in between two guys, making that nice catch. And he also had a few nice yards after catch on some short routes and able to make a few guys miss. It was nice to see Travis Hunter effective in the receiving game, doing what he did in Colorado, typically making plays all the time. So we really want to see him get going more and more for this Jags offense. I do think the Jags have a nice chance to keep this momentum going with this win. This would be another big win, fighting the Colts for the number 1 seed. And with this rushing attack, ETN really taking advantage of the touch load now these last 2 weeks. And I know he didn't do great on the ground last week, but he saw a majority of the touches again. He looks like a fine play and should be confident in him going forward this year. This is a tough matchup against the Seahawks defense, however, and we'll see if that leads to him more utilized in the receiving game. Moving on to Seattle, Sam Darnold has looked great so far this season. It was a real tough loss against the Buccaneers, and it was a good duel between Baker and Darnold. They both put on good performances, and JSN continues to really impress this season. He's averaging 100 yards a game this season, and he's the clear alpha in this offense. The Jaguars cornerbacks are targeted some of the most in football right now, so we'll see if Sam Darnold continues to attack them and if he's able to play a clean football game against this turnover-happy defense. They will rely heavily on JSN, like I said, and then in the running game with Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Ken Walker's been getting the majority of touches, but they will have to rely heavily on JSN and Ken Walker, of course. But unfortunately for Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet has really been out touching him near the goal line, so we'll see if that stays the same or changes going forward, because it's been strongly towards Charbonnet. For the props, I don't mind either of the Jaguars running back receiving props, 14.5 and 3.5 for ETN and 2 respectively. BTJ, his longest catch is 22.5 yards. I don't hate that, and his touchdown is also in play for me. On the money line, I like the Jaguars, like I said. For this next game, we got the Rams headed to Baltimore. We have the Rams headed to Baltimore, having to travel from the West Coast to the East Coast for an early 1 o'clock game. So we'll see if that has any effects early on. But Matt Stafford, man, he's the 3rd highest graded quarterback per PFF. Puka and Tay are just great weapons for him. Puka has been phenomenal all season long. And this is a Baltimore defense that has been absolutely horrible this year. They've been horrible against quarterbacks, horrible against the running back, horrible against the wide receiver. So we'll see who dominates in this game. I really like a Kyren rushing touchdown personally in this game. I think if they get up early, they'll get in the red zone. They're going to get him a touch. I wouldn't be shocked if all 3 of their superstar weapons, Kyren, Puka, and Tay, get in the end zone. That wouldn't even surprise me. I love the Rams to win this game, dominate this game. There's no Lamar this game, no Roquan this game. I know they do get back Kyle Hamilton, Ronnie Stanley, and Marlon Humphrey, which is big additions to the lineup, but it's just a must-win game for the Rams, who just lost to the Niners, and I just feel like this is a game they got to have. Maybe you don't love the spread, but just take them on the money line or tease them down to a half. They could be a good teaser leg this week. It's Cooper Rush. Like I said, this is a tough spot. No Lamar. I just really don't have a good feeling about the Ravens right now. They don't seem to be headed in a great direction and might be John Harbaugh's last year. And as a head coach of this roster. All right. Let's move right into our next game, and that's the Titans going to Las Vegas this week. Coming off Cam Ward's first NFL career victory. Huge, crazy comeback. A lot of fortunate bounces going their way. That touchdown rolling into the end zone, and nice throws from Cam Ward. He's made some nice throws this season, even though they haven't really been a good offense yet this season. This game is not really too exciting to me personally. Brock Bowers, he'll be out again, which obviously stings for everyone. He had such a great year last year, and it sucks to see him battle injury in his second year. Low-key Kyle Pitts route, but we'll keep that quiet. This tends to be a game where the Raiders will have to really heavily rely on Genty due to the fact that the Titans are allowing the top 5 most yards to the running back position and have been susceptible to the running back position for rushing touchdowns as well. This offense also, rookie Jack Besh, I'll have to shout him out. He got his first biggest game, 3 catches last week, and maybe he will take on a bigger role. I liked him a lot coming out of college, and he seems to have overtaken Thornton now through this course of the season. Michael Mayer should return, and he looked good early, so I'm interested to keep an eye on him because Alberto, their their third string tight end who filled in for Bowers and Mayer last week, had 5 targets, led the team in catches, and he was tied for highest catches with Ashton Genty and had a big game, 5 for 62, which was a pretty solid game. So for Michael Mayer, that makes me interested. But Cam Ward, yeah, he looked good with Calvin Ridley for the first time. For his prop, 48.5 yards, I don't hate this week, as well as Genty's rushing yard line. I think they're going to have to rely on him at, like I said, over 77.5 rushing yards. I think he can clear that over. For the money line, this game's a tough one. After such an embarrassing performance for the Raiders, I think that Pete Carroll is going to have them up for this game and locked in, and the Titans just got their first win, and I don't really see Cam Ward winning back-to-back games quite yet, so I'm going to go with the Raiders in this one. All right, we finally move into our 4 o'clock slate. We got a few games left, just 3 in this Sunday night slate, and we got potentially the best game for last, which is exciting. So we'll talk about those games now. In this game, we got some interesting news across the NFL unfolding right before this week. The game that I'm talking about right now is the Bengals versus the Packers. Packers at home, and we're going to start with the Bengals in this one because they have the interesting news going on. The Bengals traded a 5th-round pick for Joe Flacco, and he'll be their starting quarterback in this game. Joe Flacco kind of makes things interesting. He likes to chuck the ball deep. It should help out Jamar Chase going forward. It might also help out some of the ancillary pieces like T. Higgins and Chase Brown if he's able to work down to his second reads and his check down options. Joe Flacco's got that ability. He's a veteran quarterback, and he gets to the check down quite often. So maybe Chase Brown has to see a little bit more value with Flacco instead of Browning going forward. In this game for the Packers, though, I think it should be really heavily focused on Josh Jacobs. This Cincinnati Bengals defense is one of the worst units in football right now and hasn't been great against the running back. And I think Josh Jacobs will score a touchdown in this game most likely. But my favorite guy actually in this game is Tucker Kraft. I'm excited for him in this matchup. I think he can really get behind this defense. He's been the most exciting pass catcher, and I know he got banged up, but coming off the bye week, I think he should have a good game, and the Packers needed a bit of a reset after a little bit of a skid. They came out really hot, bit of a ego-filled team, got a little bit too high on themselves, and now this is a really good get-right spot against the Flacco-led Bengals. Get a chance for revenge. Also lost to the Flacco when he was with the Browns earlier this year. So that'll be interesting. But like I said, I'm interested on Tucker Kraft for his props of over receiving yards 52.5 and his touchdown potentially as a sprinkle. And then I like the Packers on the money line, but they're minus 14, so it's not even worth betting. Maybe the Bengals is a teaser leg, but this game is just a stay away. It's a gross game to bet. This next game, this narrative starts with the injuries. 49ers taking on the Buccaneers, both 4-1. Currently, the 49ers are 3-0 on the road, so we'll see if they can keep that streak up. And Mac Jones is 3-0 as well. He'll be the quarterback leading the charge this game, and there's a lot of injuries, like I said. That's the story. Brock Purdy ruled out. Ricky Pearsall, unfortunately, second straight week, ruled out with his PCL injury. A report came out about Brandon Ayuk being still very far away from returning. Juwan Jennings, he's questionable in this match, but if he plays, he's the clear wide receiver one for this team in this matchup. George Kittle, he's still unlikely to return in this matchup. He's targeting week 7. And Christian McCaffrey, he's been the clear focal point for this offense. He's looked great. I expected him to be great if he played, but the workload has been tremendous. He's been having to be the focal point of this offense, and we'll see if his legs can hold up throughout the whole season. That was my major worry for him this year. For the Buccaneers, they also have a litany of injuries. Chris Godwin just ruled out this week, unfortunately. Another one to the list. Mike Evans not able to return. Bucky Irving going to be ruled out for his second straight week. But Baker Mayfield just continues to get it done. Him and Emeka Egbuka just established an incredible chemistry early on in the year. Another touchdown, his best game of the year, 6 for 130 and a touchdown. Emeka Egbuka is just a tremendous player. I was touting him up all offseason, telling you to get him on your redraft teams, your dynasty teams, whatever it was. Best ball. I just loved him so much this year, and it's so awesome to see how great he's been doing. He's a potential offensive rookie of the year favorite right now, and he's been doing tremendous this season. For the other pieces, with all those injuries, we should see bigger roles for guys like Rachaad White. I do like him as a potential touchdown scorer this week, and I like his rushing yards this week. And then the receivers, Shep and Tez Johnson, might see bigger roles, as well as Cade Otton in the receiving game. He had a bigger game last week as well. So Baker tends to rely on him when Godwin and Evans were out last year. He could see a decent role in this week against the 49ers. I'm just going to go with the Buccaneers. I don't know if Mac Jones can keep this incredible streak rolling. And Baker's just been so good in these close games and just pulling out victories. I expect him to keep it rolling. They have a particularly easy schedule down the stretch. So when they're at full strength, I think this Buccaneers team could be really scary. Potential future NFC conference, maybe even Super Bowl appearance this year for the Buccaneers again. Along with this next NFC team, the Detroit Lions, this is definitely the marquee match of the slate, in my opinion. Despite the Chiefs sputtering at 2-3 after their Super Bowl loss and Chris Jones having that horrible pick 6, this offense has looked good. Rashee Rice, he'll be returning next week, and that's a huge addition to this offense. Xavier Worthy, he just can't catch a break. He keeps getting banged up. He's bothered by an ankle right now after having a shoulder injury to start the year. But this Chiefs offense looks good, and this is a huge spot for them at home. We'll see if their team can get up for this matchup. This is a game where if you're 2-4, you're really going to be fighting more for a wild card spot than the division. And I know Vegas has them favored, which is surprising to most. But the Chiefs are a great team at home, and this is a must-win spot for them at this point in the season. However, the Lions have been really impressive this season, and I want to talk about Jameson Williams first real quick because he's been really underperforming, but this might be the game where they want to show him off. He hasn't shown much on tape this season, hasn't had much big plays. They haven't connected yet this season. This might be a chance for him to get behind the defense or just even design a few play calls to him behind the line of scrimmage or drag routes and such to get him going, because Jared Goff and him just haven't connected yet, and he's an explosive player, and this could be a good spot to get him going in a matchup like this. The Chiefs are pretty good against the run, and big plays are always helpful. I also do really like Amon-Ra in this game as well. In this matchup, he's just been tremendous. Top in targets, top in yards, top in touchdowns this year. He's looking good in all aspects of the game. Their chemistry between the two, him and Goff, have just been tremendous. So he's been great all year. And since the Chiefs are pretty stout against the run, I do like Jahmyr Gibbs to be utilized in the quick passing game as an extension of the run game almost, and getting him out in space more. And their running game can be effective at certain points in this game. They do have great running backs and can wear them down that way. But I think that Jahmyr Gibbs, for his prop, I think his receiving line could be a nice over 27.5. And then Jameson Williams potentially could be a game where you want to ladder him or sprinkle in his touchdown. He hasn't seen that big game, and he's got the potential for a big game any given week. Just on one given play, he can get a 60-yard catch, maybe even get up to 100 yards this game if he has a really good game. Jameson, he's not my strongest pick on the slate. He hasn't shown enough to be too overly confident, but this could be a good spot to show him off. On the money line, I do like the Lions' value as underdogs in this game just because I think they're the better team at this current moment. But this game really could go either way, and it's a hard game to pick. But I will make my call on the Lions. It should be a great game to watch, and hopefully touchdowns are scored aplenty. I think Mahomes could be decent rushing the ball in this game. He's been their best rusher all year. Pacheco looked his best. It was their best rushing game overall as a team. Pacheco and Hunt both collectively. So that was great to see the Chiefs establish something there. And this offense could really be exciting going forward. Mahomes looks really good this year. That wraps up our week 6 slate breakdown and my betting props and moneyline picks. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and gained some valuable knowledge this week and maybe helped with fantasy advice as well. Knowing my insights on the game and who I like might help you make your decisions easier. As always, I just want to shout out all my viewers. I really appreciate all you guys who continue to tune in. It's been amazing having your guys' support. If you guys could hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. I love hearing your guys' thoughts in the comment section. It was a really profitable show last week, so hopefully that I'm able to keep it going and give out some nice picks for you guys and that strong fantasy advice. This has been a blast to continue to do for you guys, and I just want to continue to dive deep and go below the surface with you guys. Love you all and peace out. Have a great Sunday slate.